This was a very volatile time in our history. You had the Huff riots, you had Glenville riots, the King is killed in '68. You had all of that confluence. You had Carl Stokes preparing to run for office. And, right, and I was, I don't know if you guys were, but I was on the student, they had a student committee, and I was a member of that. That was my first introduction to real politics. Being, in fact, it was amazing. Of course, we had Obama in years later, but to us, that was the most exciting thing on earth. For us at that time in life, I mean, people were literally walking out, running out in the streets and just honking horns. It was like the Cavs parade kind of thing. That was the atmosphere.
There were not a lot of African Americans on campus, and so we were more like a community. We knew everybody.
When I came to CSU, it was a culture shock for me, because suddenly now I'm in a predominantly white campus. In my classes, I don't know about you guys, but my early classes, because I took business, I really wanted to go into advertising, and they didn't have anything like that. They didn't have journalism. So I just said the closest thing would be to kind of take some advertising classes under business. So that would kind of get me there. But I was probably the only African-American student in many of my classes. And so that was a whole cultural shock for me.
Kent State incident, okay. And then something happened down in
Jackson,
Mississippi. And we became more in tune with and more concerned with, well, what is life like here for us as African Americans and the country in general. And so things like the newspaper, where we began to voice our opinion about our experience here, and the creation of then what was called CSU.
It was CSU,
right.
And so we had started there, you know, at least sitting around talking. We called it rapping at the time. And, you know, and just talking about things and, you know, bouncing ideas around. Because I can remember going home and my dad, who was a World War II vet, used to tell me, get out of here talking about that. You're gonna cause me to lose my pension. Because I would go home and talk about revolution and, you know, and how nothing's gonna be right unless we have a revolution. And, you know, and my father
There'll be revolution out of this house.
He was very afraid. I mean, you know, now towards the end of his days on earth, before he went to glory, he said, you know, girl, I think you were right. You know, but at that time,
it was generational. My dad was a World War II vet as well. You know, we came in with afros, that was freaking them out.
Oh my God.
Is that on your hair? What are you doing to your hair, boy?
Oh my goodness.
So,
you know,
I mean, even something that basic. As we were talking and reflecting, it's amazing how you go through life and you start thinking about things that turn your life. And one of the things that would have changed my life exponentially was Vietnam, because I had to think back. There was a lottery going on at that. You see, the draft ended. And so then we were put into the lottery. And I think I may have been a freshman at CSU. So we were all on pins and needles wondering if we're gonna end up going to the war or if we're gonna be able to pursue our education. It was like an awakening. And let's not forget, there was some tension in the broader world between now, you got King, but you got Malcolm X, you got Stokely Carmichael, and then there was some fissure there. Are we gonna go King's route, the pacifist route, or should we get the bullet and go that way? And don't forget, Black Power is just coming out now, just the word Black Power. But I think the times affected us here, because I think we start looking around and say, well, what do we have here at CSU? What are we doing?
But you know what, in retrospect, I think because this was a commuter's college, it still kept us mellower, if that's a word, than say kids.
If it was sedentary.
Yes, because, you know, we lived together, because like you said before, we were revolutionaries during the day, and you know, philosophers and all that during the day, but then we had to go back home and be, you know, Gail and Gerald and Dillard. I mean, but I think that had we lived here, had we lived on campus, I think that the movement would have come a lot faster.
Probably, sure.
You know.
And we had a mild takeover. They had one of the, I don't know if it was in Finn, but there was a mild little sit-in, I should say, not a takeover. It was a sit-in I didn't participate in it, but there were groups of students that did participate in it. So we had that going on. But then on the other hand, you had a group of us who were sitting down with the president of the college, Harold Anderson, at the time, who then later ends up as the president of Ohio State University. But there was another group of us who were sitting down like a labor negotiation session with a list of 10 demands. With the president of the college. So we're sitting around the table. Some of us were not out there, with the garb on and all that, or sitting in. We said, well, there's another way I think we can get this established, which may be more on the King way of doing it.
When we talk about, the different movements across the country, because we were not unique. I mean, as being, black students becoming aware. Absolutely. But we were I would say that when you look back, because of the fact that we did not live on campus. No, in spite of the fact that we did not live on campus, and yet we still plodded on. I think we were some pretty strong and aware sisters and brothers, young sisters and brothers, when you think about it. Once young people become committed about something, you cannot stop them. And I used to say to my students, you all are young. You all are passionate. When you love hard. When you hate hard. For you guys, they're really very, very, there's not a whole lot of gray for them. And that is the way that is what I still believe. And I believe that if you want something done, let the young people do it.
If you forget your history, you're condemned to repeat certain things, and I think you need to be aware of this. And this is how it has impacted me, because I came from a hotbed of that kind of activism in Birmingham, Alabama. Although I wasn't there, but my cousins were there doing the water with the water hoses and the dogs and all those kinds of things. And I try to remind students, my nieces and nephews, of the important role that the civil rights has played in their lives in preparing you to be able to go on and do things that you need to do for yourself and for your children who are coming along after you also. So it's a powerful statement about our existence, our history. Yes.